Dear chess parents, welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to another brilliant and spectacular gameplay by the most powerful chess engine in the world, by the powerful Stockfish 17. Today we see the fish battling it out against another top engine, Devre, in an amazing Moscow variation of the Sicilian defense. And in this game, you witness really one of the most epic, one of the most spectacular attacks against the Fianchetto, against the Black's G6 bishop to G7 setup. Here Stockfish will produce so many dirty, beautiful, sharp tactical ideas, in my opinion. Really an epic attack. So put your seatbelts on and enjoy again in a wild attacking game by Stockfish 17. So with the white pieces, the fish open with move e4 c5 by Devre, knight to f3, d6 modern variations of the Sicilian. Now comes the Moscow variation with the move bishop to b5. Here Devre covers and Stockfish supports now the move, the bishop with the move c4. What should you do? There are maybe here opportunities in some lines to play bishop to b5. Has been played many times also in top GM level. After c takes b5, a6, then white is continuing the game with the move d4, and although maybe black takes here the pawn on b5, then you can have this one, and I think after a couple of trades of queens maybe on the d file, here black would then continue with two weak pawns on the b file with a double pawn structure, which is of course not such a powerful line. Maybe you can continue with knight to f6, but then also here b takes a6 can happen, and then continue with knight to c3. So all of the signs are pretty solid, I think, for both sides. But instead of this bishop to b5, Devre continue with the Fianchetto with the move g6, knight to c3 by the fish. Now normal development, and now breaking here, of course, in the center of the board with the move d4, c takes d, knight takes d, and now knight to f6, normal development, castling also here by Devre. And okay, let's stop and evaluate the position. White has good activity with its minor pieces. What black again gained, I think, is that black avoided the common attacks against the Fianchetto, where white is castling maybe queen side, and then you play maybe this setup bishop to e3, queen to d2, and then you're trying, I don't know, maybe to trade off the bishops, go into launch into flank attack with h4 h5 to launch some kind of an attack on this side of the board. So now when the kings are on both sides, it's very hard for white to produce any attacking ideas on the king side. But believe me or not, in this game Stockfish will do exactly this thing that many of us wouldn't even consider to move. Stockfish will launch actually here a great king side attack, but first of all it has to be prepared. We have now the move h3, preventing some knight to g4 stuff, bishop to g4, and similar ideas by black. Ace here after the h3, the a6 here by Devre, attacking now the bishop. After a couple of trades of pieces here, Stockfish plays in sort of a Marozzi bind structure with the move b3, c4, e4. The knight is centralized on d4. Many times we have seen this Marozzi bind set up by white against the Fianchetto, against also the common Sicilian openings. We have now knight to c5, hitting the pawn. Stockfish protects it, and now Devre simply gets the rook on the most active file, of course on the semi-open c file. We have now here rook to b1. Stockfish gets out of the potential attack by the Darsko bishop of black, so doesn't want to get endangered. If something of course clears, then the rook could be hanging on a1. Here Devre continues with rook to e8, and now bishop to b2. Again Stockfish competes against this very annoying and unpleasant but also powerful bishop on g7. Knight from f to d7. Devre liberates the diagonal. Stockfish again puts the bishop on a more secure square, and now knight to e5. And you see, Devre in the beginning, I think, played a great game, maneuvered the pieces on the most active squares, maneuvered the pieces on the most active diagonals. The rooks are of course on the most active files also. They're on the most active potential files, because usually the e file could be cleared maybe after a couple of trades of pawns in the center of the board. So Devre played, I think, really so far a great game. Stockfish continues with knight to c2, knight to d3. Now comes a beautiful attack against the rook, and rook to e3. Now after knight to f4, now we had a positional struggle, we had now a positional battle, but now the real fun starts. So Stockfish continues with an aggressive g3. Many of us would not play this move because obviously the pawn on h3 is hanging, but Stockfish is trying with this move after potential knight to h3 to first of all also lock the knight. Maybe the knight could be trapped, and also what's very important to say, after potential knight to h3, the rook could be maybe included into the game through the H file, and then again Stockfish would have at least some attacking chances, although both kings are, as we mentioned in the beginning, on the same side. So what should you do? You could maybe try here knight to h5 to escape, but then after king to g2, white should be slightly better, and when white in one moment pushes the pawn on, I think, to f4, white would have really great space advantage. I really didn't want to dive deeper into this line, but I think we can agree from a positional point of view, f4, then maybe to play something like after f4, knight retreats, rook to d3, knight to d5. The next the next couple of moves I think would be very, very easy then for white to play. But after move g3, Devre accepted the challenge, said now, show me what you got, and Stockfish plays now king to g2. Stockfish calculated everything in a good way, because of potential here knight to g5. If you step back, then f4 is coming, and you could lose here decisive material. So this is not working. So that's why for king to g2, queen to d7, we have now the move f4. Stockfish locks out now the knight on h3. Really great attacking ideas, but Devre played also a beautiful counter attack with the move knight to g4, hitting now the rook. We have queen to f3, knight takes e3. Stockfish sacrifices, of course, temporarily the rook, but now Devre has to make a decision because this knight is trapped. Devre took now, knight takes f4, g takes f4, and now queen to d8. And let's again stop a little bit, evaluate the position. Devre gave up now 2 minor pieces for the rook, meanwhile gained 2 pawns, which is basically a good compensation. Having 2 rooks and here 1 minor piece against the 1 rook and 3 minor pieces would be, as I said, with the pawn count, a great situation for black. But what black cannot do, and I have mentioned many times in my videos, what black cannot do is trade off the queens. Black would love now to simplify the game by trading off the queens, but Stockfish is saying no. You have now opened basically my files. Now I have many great attacking chances here on the king side, and suddenly this game becomes really a sharp tactical battle, although the kings are on the same side. But now Stockfish is trying to launch some kind of attack, maybe through the h file, through the d file here with the rook, with the knight. So now the pieces starts to dance in front of black's king. And again, what should you do now here from white's perspective? b5 is here, I think, sort of a line that could be liberating for black. Black could have a great attack after potential b5 move. If something clears, then of course the knight could be hanged. So that's why Stockfish plays the great a4. It's not allowing that. b5 is the only move that could maybe somehow open a position. Now Stockfish blocked it, and now here Devre, believe me or not, makes already its first mistake with king to h8. In the beginning, I really didn't realize why this move is such a big deal. Why Devre didn't why shouldn't we go with your king on a more secure square? Why should we maybe include more defenders into the game? But actually what you have to do, you have to restrict here the white's knight ability to play to come on the square d5. Then after something like, I don't know, rook to f1 or rook to d1, you can play rook to c7, and then you would have a great follow-up with rook to d7. Then the pawn on d6, which is in the beginning a weakness, could be very well protected by the queen and the rook's activity. And in some lines, if maybe white moves somewhere the knight, you could then also maybe break and enter with the move d5, or if the position maybe later allows it, also with the move b5. So black has to search basically here for some ideas to open a position somehow in the center of the board or on the queen side. On the king side, of course, we should not push pawns because your king is endangered, but this was the way they go, e6, in order to prevent any hops by the knight on d5. And that's why here king to h8 seemed like a logical idea in the beginning for me, but now look at this, how Stockfish is punishing this move. Stockfish plays now the move rook to d1, and you see now e6 is now a little bit too slow. If you play it now, then e5 is coming through and you're getting destroyed. I would say here then the knight is followed with knight to e4, knight to g5, I don't know, knight takes d6, and many tactical ideas coming to my mind. You can even, I think, include the queen into the attack for the h file. So suddenly I think it would become simply a one-way ticket in white's favor. So e6, the good defensive move, the good restriction move now that would black help out, of course, to prevent any hops of the knight is simply not working anymore. So Stockfish says you had your chance, now you're going to suffer. So here Devre is trying again to play some kind of a counter attack, plays an attack against the knight on c3. Stockfish protects it, but not only protects it, Stockfish includes now also the knight into the attack. And what should you do? If you try now maybe e6, then actually look at this. I've analyzed always, when I analyze the game at home, always this potential e6 move, which Devre should have played in the first place. Look how crazy this attack would have been. This wasn't playing the game, as I mentioned, but look how beautiful this position is now. If this would have been the line, then Stockfish suggests here, my Stockfish agent at home suggests that you should play e5. You don't go even for the d6 pawn, and then after something like h5, you play knight to f6. After bishop to f6, you don't pick up even the bishop. Look how crazy Stockfish calculates. You follow up with knight to e4, the move that we have discussed a little bit earlier. And now after bishop to g7, you play bishop to c3. The queen steps back. Now you pick up this pawn. Bishop takes c3 is not working because of queen to c3, knight to f6, and some other stuff. d7 is also an option. So too many tactical problems. After e takes d6, rook from e to d8, and now you play a5. This pawn cannot be taken because of bishop takes g7, the tactic. The queen wouldn't be lined up then on the third rank, and you could lose again the queen. So the queen would have to step back, and now you play king to h2, and black is paralyzed. Really crazy position here in this situation. This is the line that maybe Devre could have played, but still I would say such a devastating position. In no way that you're going to trade off here the bishops. That's the issue, because then you're weakening also your king here on h8. And that's also here the point that we have discussed earlier, that black made a huge mistake with move king to h8, allowed here black's king to be much weaker than it would have been, of course, on g8. So here after knight to g4, you see, as we said, e6 again, probably not working here for black. Devre tried h5, but now comes what is, in my opinion, the most spectacular move of this game. The knight is hanging, the pieces are really dynamic all over the board, and Stockfish plays a beautiful counter attack with f5, and this is really crazy. So let's see now options now for black, what black can do here. If you play, let's see, h takes g4, that's now the most natural way here to proceed. Many of us, of course, would play this move. Then after queen to g4, the issue is now you cannot play bishop takes c3. This knight is not hanging because you get this one, queen to h3 check. You have to step back to g7 or maybe to g8, but now bishop to c3 wins simply the queen. Even if you go to g8, it doesn't matter. Again, bishop to c3, you have to maybe step back with the queen if you don't want to lose, of course, the queen, and then you get checkmated on h8. Even if you try, instead of bishop to c3 in this imaginary position, then even if you try again this maybe e6 idea to somehow, I don't know, connect the queen further to the f5 square, then f takes g6, we simply pick up the pawn, f takes g6, queen to g6, rook to h1 is now a huge threat with the check. You're trying, I don't know, rook to e7, then e5. Look at this, if queen to e5, rook to h1, knight to e4, everything is so compact here. You have to step back with the queen, and if you don't, of course, play that, then the pieces are coming into the game here on this diagonal. A check is possible. Knight to f6 in some lines is possible. So again, a completely winning position here for white. So instead of this move h takes g4, when Stockfish played now the move f5, instead of h takes g4, what you could play is maybe g takes f5 immediately. Maybe you don't want to pick up the knight. You don't want to maybe clear now the h file. But now look at this, knight to d5 is the winning idea. Look at this. If bishop to a1 happens, you don't again pick up the piece. That's not the point here. If bishop to g7, then queen is coming, king to g8, and now knight to e7, for instance, is just one possible line that could have happened. Also, look at this, in this crazy position, black has to worry also about the loose queen a little bit on a5. So again, it would be game over. So that was our analysis after potential h takes g4 or g takes f5 here in this critical moment when Stockfish played now the move f5. Here Devre played king to g8. improved finally the position of the king, but now it's again too late. Stockfish continues with the obvious knight to d5, and again I wanted to point out, if black would have played earlier the move e6, this hop of the knight would not be possible. Bishop to a1 here by Devre, picking up the piece, but again a brilliant follow-up here by the fish. The Stockfish engine doesn't pick up the bishop. Stockfish just want to include the queen into the game, maybe wants also to get the queen to h6, maybe to the square g5. Now nothing is possible, and even if you try maybe to retreat to g7, then the winning idea is here knight to h6. If you try king to f8, then the f file gets cleared. You're trying maybe f6, but now look at this, knight to f5. You're trying, I don't know, maybe to get the rook into the game, which is too slow. Queen to f3 with the idea to play queen to h5. You maybe can even sacrifice some material back here, but it doesn't matter. In a potential line, you're so vulnerable now finally on life course when the bishop is blocked out. So it's just again one line that I wanted to point you out here that could be possible, but in any of these lines I think we can agree white is simply destroying black's camp here. So even if you try here queen to c5 instead of rook to c5 to get the queen closer to the action, then rook to h1 is again just a normal idea, getting the rook here. Rook to h7, this bishop is loose now. It's simply neutralized by its own pawn structure. Really amazing stuff. So after move queen to f4, that's why bishop to e5 here by Devre. Stockfish plays now the obvious queen to g5. Of course, get the queen where already the king is if something clears. Again, the king can be endangered. H takes g4, f takes g6, and now again what you should do, if you play f6, then queen to h6 with queen to h7, and queen to f7 is here, of course, a checkmate. So here, after f takes g6, bishop to g7, Stockfish again threatens the checkmate. You cannot play here rook to f8 because of this tactic that we have talked about, knight to e7 and picking up the queen. But actually, in this line, it's not about the queen anymore. If you play king to h8, then rook to h1 is winning here the game. So actually, you get checkmated here immediately in one move. You're trying maybe to cover, and then the brilliant move here is queen to f6, and this should be game over. You cannot cover because of the rook's activity. So here after queen to f5, f takes g6 was played, but now first of all the check. Again, you cannot move to the h file because of rook to h1, bishop to h6, and then queen to f7 with a simple checkmate. So that's why for queen to e6 here, king to f8, queen takes g6, e6, and now after rook to f1 in this particular position, Devre resigned. Wherever you go, look at this. The queen is coming here. Again, this check, and it's a beautiful, beautiful checkmate with an amazing queen and rook activity. So, great game by Stockfish against the Fianchetto. Really amazing, amazing tactical ideas. Really dirty attack all over the board. Devre made a couple of mistakes, but it would have been very interesting to see this game without these mistakes by Devre. Probably against Stockfish would find some attacking ideas because it is a much more powerful engine. But I really enjoyed it because we have seen great ideas, great tactical shots, brilliant really stretch position all over the board where there was a certain dependency between white pieces. A really beautiful attacking harmony. In my opinion, really one of the best attacks that I've seen against the Fianchetto setup when the kings were on the same side. So, okay, a great game by the fish. If you want to see some other beautiful, sharp, tactical game like this, check out our Come to Chess Games Play by Computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.